No, you don't need to write this down. You don't need to write this down. So this is the phrase by Benjamin Franklin. Does anyone know what that underline is? There's two things in life that are certain.
I heard it before.
You've heard it before.
Yeah. Um,
Starts with a T.
that and something. Change.
Starts with a T.
Tragedy. I don't know.
I'm not even.
Taxes. Two things are certain in life: death and taxes. That was something that was something said by Benjamin Franklin. So he's basically saying it's like no matter what you do, you're gonna get taxed and you're gonna die. Something that happens. So what we're kind of focusing on this week is taxes. Now, quick question: has anyone here filed their income tax yet? Not yet.
I think check me out. I've heard.
Not wait. The physical mail. The physical mail, like the letters and stuff.
Yeah. Like,
What happens if the box gets full though? Oh crap! I haven't checked. I didn't check mine last week either. Oh no. That's not going to be good for me. So yeah, we're focusing on taxes because this is around the time when most people start doing their taxes. You can absolutely. We're actually gonna be focusing more on that tomorrow. We're gonna get a little bit more of a background understanding of all the different types of taxes. Now, what you're thinking of is you're thinking of income taxes. That's one of the many different types of taxes. But yeah, so we will eventually be going into that. That's what most people do. Most people just go to like what do you use, like TurboTax, or which one?
Yeah, but I think it's called something now.
Oh, okay, yeah. There's a bunch of different ones, yeah. So what I want you to do is, so this is what you're using those whiteboards for. I just want you to write down everything you know, you think you know, or you don't know. Like you just not like I don't know anything about taxes.
Hold all that.
Those are just some sample like questions there, like guiding questions. I just want you to write down everything you think you know about taxes.
Or like PST.
Yeah, you can write that down for sure. Yeah. Again, and if you know nothing, just put down, hey, I don't know this. Like I don't know if I get taxed. I don't know when I should get taxed. So 3 minutes, just write down everything that you know, you think you know, or you don't know. Whoops, I did not mean to pause that, but oh well. That is what it is. Here we go. So I want to just do a general like introduction to this. We're not going to go. We're going to go a little bit slower today, just because it's been a break. We came in late, understandably. Bus got stuck, so we're not going to go too deep today. We're going to focus on just a general overview of taxes today. Tomorrow, we're going to delve into specifically income taxes after as well. So generally, quick question for you here. There's different levels of government, right? You said government takes our tax. Which government? You already mentioned a couple of them with your acronyms there. Like the first things you said, GST, HST, PST.
Isn't that the main one? The main taxes in Canada?
It's three of the ones that we most think of. It's not the main sources of tax, as we'll find out, but it is a main tax though, yes. So there's different levels of government, right? Now we know, of course, that there's the provincial government, right? Saskatchewan. There's the Canadian government, Canada. So you pay federal taxes, you pay provincial taxes. There's one more that you also pay. Does anyone know what it is? So you pay three. There's three different levels of taxes that you pay. Three different levels of government in Canada. So it's called municipal. That basically means you're local, right? So every year, yeah. Oh yeah, you were thinking like, is it the Senate? No. Yeah. So there's three levels, right? So there's federal, the government one. Usually that's like when you go to like the co-op to buy anything, GST, right? Some of your income tax goes to them. There's provincial government. Most of your money there is income tax, but there's also PST, right? Provincial sales tax. We paid 0% like a decade ago, some crap like that. And then there is municipal. That's like local. So like I pay property tax in Humboldt, for example, right? I pay for water services, for garbage pickup, stuff like that. That's all municipal stuff, local stuff. So there's local, provincial, federal. Those are the three levels. Now, question though is, why do they actually charge the tax? It's not, they don't like line their own pockets with them. Like that's not how it works. At least, well, sometimes they can end up that way, but that's not the purpose of them. Why do governments actually charge taxes? We have three governments. All of them are like, give me money, 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 money. Why? The fun stuff, yeah, right? They pay for goods and services, right? Like I have water to my house because everyone in the town pays for that, right? There's a water treatment plant. It's not just like, yeah, we have an old slough out back. It's treated, right? There's workers there. I drive on a paved road. You know, my nieces go to a local school that is helped paid by that, right? All that stuff, goods and services. That's why they charge them, right? What's a couple, anyone give any other examples of them? You'd mentioned some before. What are other examples of stuff that governments fund with taxes? Hospitals, yeah. I'm gonna go a step above that. Healthcare, right? Yeah. What else? What else? Well, to keep the, you know, some of that money goes to keep the government running, yes. And another, so there's three primary, I guess 4 primary things that your money goes to. So one is, we've already touched on it, healthcare. The other one we touched on, keeping the government up. And what'd you say? Education, that's a third one. Can anyone guess what the other one is? This is one that most people struggle to get. And that's fine. So the 4 major sources of spending where most of people's tax money goes: education, healthcare, keeping the government running, and it's called social services and welfare.
Oh.
Yeah. There's other stuff that it goes to, but those are the 4 big ones, right? So I have a question for you here. What's the main goal of the government when they're in power? Philosophical question here. It's not what you think, maybe. See, most people would think that. I mean, technically, yes, that's a job. That's their job, but they have a partially. You're super close. You're this close to it. So their main goal is, oh, I've been elected. You know what I want to do? I want to get elected next time. I want to get elected the time after that, right? I want to stay in power. So how are they going to do that? Maybe they keep their campaign promises. If, you know, hey, you know, there's like, maybe we all live in Wadena, for example. There's different people running here. The person who says that, hey, I'm going to improve water quality, maybe most people are going to vote for them, right? So they're trying to they're shaping what they want to do to the demands of the people. Good morning.
Good morning.
So main goal of the government when they're in power is to stay in power. So they react to individuals, you, me, the towns, mayors, and their demands, right? Or whatever they want. I'm going to vote for the person who's going to give me what I want or what I think I want. So we're halfway done. Halfway done. So taxes. There's 2 ways to get taxes. There's systemic. Systemic means everyone, right? So systemic ones affect absolutely everyone. So that's like, again, that's most of the stuff we're talking about, like income taxes, for example. Pretty much everyone files an income tax. Maybe you don't pay them. Maybe you don't pay income tax, but most people file an income tax. That's an example of a systemic one, right? Something that pretty much everyone does. Then there's user-based ones. So types of taxes. So these are how governments collect money from you. Systemic ones, so like property tax, income tax, stuff like that. Then there's user-based ones. If I go to the co-op and I buy smokes and a pop, there's taxes applied on that, right? That's user-based. So it's applied on a certain good the two we know the most of are alcohol and tobacco, but there's other stuff as well, like junk foods. There's taxes on that, for example, in Canada. Sorry? Marijuana, absolutely, right? Like that's made the governments how many billions of dollars? Yeah, that's a really good example. Yeah. So yeah, user-based and systemic, right? So that's how governments collect their money. GST, PST, that's a systemic thing. There's exemptions, of course, but we'll get there. And we know that there's 3 different ways to collect the taxes, right? Municipal, provincial, and Canada. So they collect them in different ways, though. And I'm not going to be expecting you guys to know these answers. Maybe you'll have a good guess. Maybe you'll just be, you know, I think it's this. You have no clue. That's okay. So municipal, right? This is our local government. So how do they gather taxes and what does it pay for? How do we think they gather it? And what do we think it pays for?
Your ambulance. Hospital.
Okay, so you're thinking, so local town pays for hospital? Well, there's 2 questions there. So how do they gather the money, right? How do they get that money, and what did it pay for? Like when I file an income tax, I'll give you a hint. It does not go to when I file an income tax, it doesn't go to Humboldt. It goes to the other 2 guys. So how does my town get money then from me? Any guesses? It was said earlier. Starts with a P. Not PST. Property tax. Yeah, that's the main source, right? Every year I pay property tax. That money goes to fund stuff like the roads that I drive on. You know, that goes to fund the local schools that my nieces and nephews go to. But of course, there's also stuff like I pay a water bill, I pay for garbage pickup, stuff like that. When you're speeding through, let's say I'm going through Humboldt, I'm going like, I don't know, 80, cop pulls me over, gives me a speeding ticket. That money goes to my town. You're welcome, guys. So those are some of your main methods. Now what this stuff pays for though, is it pays for your local government to operate, funds local schools, and then local services, again, like roads and water and stuff like that. So onto your hospital example. In Canada, healthcare is the responsibility of the provinces. So right now, did anyone hear about this? Like Trudeau and Mo have been like fighting, like the Saskatchewan's leader, Canada's leader, they've been fighting over healthcare funding. Basically, Trudeau, the federal government, sent out a whole bunch of money to all the different provinces, and it required them, it had to be spent on healthcare, directly to healthcare. And then Scott Moe saying he didn't like that, he had other plans for it, whatever it was. Oh, so we'll get, well, it's not trillions, but well, yeah. So they give money to I'm gonna put a pin in that for now, just because I don't want to sidestep from this, but we'll revisit that though. Okay, please remind me though at the end of before the end of the lesson though, because I might forget. So provincial government, most of their tax comes from income tax, but there's also another thing, resource taxes. Right, we're in Saskatchewan. We have lots of mines, lots of trees, lots of lumber. We have lots of wheat, lots of agriculture products. Those are all resources, right? So when we sell that stuff to other places, it's taxed on. Like, you know, BC, they have so many forests, right? Everywhere in the world wants the lumber from BC. They're going to make you pay them to get it. But of course, there's also the stuff like gambling. Has anyone heard about the liquor licenses lately? So all the government run liquor stores closed recently, right? So they're selling those liquor licenses. So I think they're all closed by next week. So most are closed already, but there are a couple that are still standing for a couple more weeks. But so yeah, so what's happening there? I asked about that. So all the liquor stores that are closing in the province, they're sending whatever they have left over to that store to sell.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's going to be like one outlet for it in Saskatoon. I don't think there's one in Regina. But did anyone hear how much these liquor licenses are going for? One of them sold for $3.4 million. Because there's I think this was in it was in Larange. So some store in Larange, maybe it's Sobeys, maybe it's the co-op. They decided they wanted to be able to sell alcohol because you need a license to sell alcohol, right? You can't just all of a sudden open up a shop. That could be part of the reason. But anyways, they decided that they're going to spend that much money to sell it. So where I'm from, Humboldt, one of the bars sold their liquor license for $1.2 million. So now we're getting a co-op liquor store in a couple of years there.
There's already Sobeys, right?
There's already a Sobeys in Humboldt. Yeah.
It's all Sobeys and co-ops now.
Pretty much. Yeah. So yeah, but those are examples of money that goes to the province, right? They get money from that. So that what your provincial taxes pay for is medical, all your healthcare. So pretty much half of your taxes that you give to the province goes to healthcare, about half. The other part of it is education and then welfare and social services. Then there's the other stuff like highways, water management, the environment. Sometimes, like let's say Wadena wanted to build a local hospital. Wadena would pay a little bit for that. They would pay some of the money. The provincial and federal government would probably chip in a little bit too. So other stuff like that, they help out local governments as well. And then finally, we have federal. They gather their tax from primarily three things. One is income tax. Second one is GST. Third one is, has anyone been on an international airplane?
I never been on
So when you fly to a different country, and you're coming back, so when you go through security, what's going to happen is the second you walk out of security, you walk through a whole bunch of like shops, stores, right? Lots of tobacco, lots of alcohol, but sunglasses, perfumes, stuff like that. All available, yeah, gift stores, all that stuff there. So those things are called duty free. Basically means tax free. So you're so my stepdad, he's a really big smoker, cigars. Anytime anyone travels somewhere, he gives them money, go pick me up a bunch of cigars from the duty free shop because it's cheaper for him, right? He's not paying taxes on that.
There's no place. By the burgers, they sell cheap alcohol.
I've driven through that actually. Oh crap! Memory lane there. Which one?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I've driven through that. Yeah. But yeah, federal. So they get income tax, GST, and it's called a tariffs or a duty, right? So when you import something, export something, when they ship something, they bring something in. There's tariffs. There's extra money applied on that gets paid for. And that's why I got to that duty-free thing, right? Because at certain places, like an international airport, when you're coming back, you can get that alcohol and those smokes without paying taxes on them. So it's usually a little bit cheaper. What does it pay for? It keeps the government running, of course. There's government money transfers. So let's say, for example, Nova Scotia. Their economy is pretty crappy. They have a lot of old people. They don't have a good economy. They don't make enough money in taxes to pay for their education, to pay for their healthcare. So what they do is they take some of the surplus, some of the extra money, and they transfer it over there. So there's government money transfers there for usually education, medicine, the mail, Canada Post, right? That's paid for by the government. There's transport, military, border, all that stuff. Foreign aid, as you mentioned, Stephen. That's also something that happens here. Now, most people, when they talk about taxes, they just kind of end there. But every single time I've ever taught, like I go to like Regina Public, I go to like Horizon School Division, I've gone to like Prairie South, any school division, any school I've ever talked to, I've always heard this one thing. This is about Indigenous peoples. There's a lot of myths floating around out here, right? So you guys probably know quite a bit about this already. But so under Section 87 of the Indian Act, there are exemptions for people who they define as Indian. There are common exceptions. These are the most common, right? If you have a job on a reserve, you make money on a reserve. You don't get taxed on that. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If you buy something on a reserve or something's delivered to it, it's not taxed. Now, this is something a lot of people do know, but most people don't know the reason why. You know, I've taught a bunch of, you know, really snotty, like 14-year-olds, and there's like, oh, you know, those people just don't pay anything taxes. Not quite, right? You know, they think, you know, if you guys all go to the co-op here and buy smokes, you're paying, what is it, like $14 a pack or some crap? Yeah, right? Yeah, everyone's paying, right? Doesn't matter if you have a treaty card or not. So why are there exemptions? A lot of people in Saskatchewan under the misconception, they think that it's because, oh, it's just a bunch of handouts, right? Like I've heard that everywhere. You know, so many people were misinformed. It's because they want to protect the reserve land and the property. It's been around for like over 200 years, right? Before Canada was a country, there was tax exemptions there. So the biggest one, of course, is employment income. So you're exempt if it's on a reserve. You don't have to include that income when you file your personal tax return, but it might be in your advantage to do so. And so if you're ever unsure, should I claim this? Should I not claim this? You can call that number there and they'll tell you for free. So that's like a brief overview of taxes. Bear with me 1 second. Oops. So that's like a brief overview of taxes. So like I said, I didn't want to go like too deep today. We're just going to start. We're just going to start a little bit light. We'll get a little bit more into it tomorrow, specifically income taxes. So the only thing we're doing this morning, is I'll hand out a one-page thing. I have 6 questions for you. A lot of it's exactly what we just talked about. All the information can be found in this one thing. It's like 3 or 4 paragraphs that I've written there. So it's 3 or 4 paragraphs. I have 6 questions, which I'll hand out in a moment. Just want you to read through that, answer it. A lot of the stuff is exactly what we've just talked about. Pretty much everything there is exactly what we've talked about the last little bit. So I'll hand those out here in a bit, but this is where you can find that information. And that's all we're doing this morning. I don't want to go too crazy deep. We'll start off light.
Oh, no, it's like. Or,
Over.
I mean, like, then.
I did a big roast and Instant Pot.
Instant pots, will this take like hours?
No, it takes like slow cookers take hours. The Instant Pot will move faster. Yeah, so like in 30 minutes, I can like do it in full forward. Pressure cooker, basically. Oh, so yeah, so all you guys have to do for the rest of the morning is just that. There's those 6 questions there. If you don't remember the stuff that we've talked about, you can find the information right there. I don't want to do more than that just because I don't want to muddy the waters too much. Let me